Welcome to our Friday Language Alchemy Live. Thank you so much for joining me on another Friday. And there's something that we need to acknowledge that for the last 18 months, we have experienced a lot of hardships as a human family wherever we are in the world. And for those of us who are in the United States, things are opening up and we're having the opportunity to reconnect with loved ones and having the opportunity to see people that we haven't seen in a long time and be in that same space and interact with them in person. So I'm so grateful that you are here because as we are going to be sharing the same space with people that we haven't seen in a long time and that we're going to be interacting with, I want to encourage you to have that interaction be different from what that had been so that you can strengthen the bond of connections with those that you care about. And how do you do that? Through the power of transformative communication. So in this live, we are going to be talking about how to find your communication flavor and your communication flavor that leads to more connection and more authenticity in your expression. And I'm not talking about when I say your communication flavor, I'm not talking about your communication style. So let me explain a little bit. When we are stimulated, when we are triggered by a difficult interaction or a difficult type of situation, and we don't really we don't really look forward to communicating in those situations, what we usually do is that what comes out of our mouths comes out in one flavor and one flavor only. What we say is the same even though the situation is different and even though the people around us are different. So, as adults, we need to increase our communication flavors, and this is what this live is about. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Alejandra Siroca from Language Alchemy, and I help you find more peace and harmony in your life and in your relationships through the power of transformative communication by teaching you how to communicate with clarity, confidence, and compassion. So, if you don't know me, there you are, or maybe you haven't seen me in a while and you needed to reconnect with me. So, let's go back and let's address this idea of a communication flavor and finding your communication flavor. So, first of all, I have a question for you. And my question is um, do you know people who usually go to the same restaurant and maybe they order the same kind of dish every time they go? So if you are going to go with them and maybe go and have dinner with them, what you notice is that you already know what that person is going to order. You already know what that person is going to eat, right? So if you have that person in your life, let's write it in the comments. And maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a parent, an uncle, a colleague, a mentor. And you don't need to type the name of the person. You can just type who that person is. Like, for example, for me, it's my father-in-law. I already know that if we go to a restaurant, an Indian restaurant, I know he's going to have Began Bartha, and I know the kind of beer he's going to order. He's going to order a Singha, an Indian beer. So if you know what this person would order and who this person is, write it down. And I'm going to check in the comments. It takes a little while, so I'm going to check in the comment what it is that you wrote. So if this is the first time that you are joining a Language Alchemy Live on a Friday, know that it's interactive. And why are these lives interactive? Because I am really committed to helping you increase the flavor of your communication and have more choice in a way that brings more harmony and more peace to your life and relationships. And how do we learn communication? Well, by interacting. So That's why these lives are very interactive. You need to interact. And we have a comment here from Samantha who says that you had a joke in your family because your sister always ordered chicken tenders everywhere in capital letters. That's right. Yeah. And so it's true. We have people in our lives who always order the same thing. And like for you, Samantha, it's your sister. And for me, it's my father-in-law. And I even know what kind of level of spiciness he's going to order in his Beck and Bartha when we go to an Indian restaurant, which I hope is soon. So, you know, the thing is that when it comes to communication, we are a little bit like that. Like our sisters, our fathers in law, our friends who tend to order the same thing at the restaurant. When it comes to communicating, when we are triggered, when it's hard to communicate, we tend to say the same thing. It's like ordering the same dish, like the chicken tenders. So even though the situation is different, even though the listener or is different or we're with a different group of people, even though it's a different season, we're at a different age, even our hairstyle is different. But our communication is the same. It's the same old flavor. And when we reflect later on, after what we have said, after that flavor that came out of our mouths, what we actually find is that it was far from appetizing. Maybe it was kind of stale. It's disappointing. It really didn't give us anything but the fleeting illusion of satisfaction. But it actually wasn't satisfying. So if you think about a situation right now that's triggering, that's hard for you to communicate, in which you struggle to communicate, and you kind of like already know, like your sister, like your friend, like my father-in-law, you're going to go there and your communication is going to have one flavor and one flavor only. Think about that situation for a moment that for you is difficult. And if you want, you can type it in the comments. I want to give you some examples of what I mean. So for one of my clients, he shared in one of our coaching sessions that whenever someone expresses big feelings, he usually says, let's take a break and let's be level-headed about it. So another client shared that when her clients give her some kind of comment that for her, she interprets that as negative feedback, she makes a joke about it. And she redirects the conversation and changes the topic. In this case, both of my clients are having one communication flavor when it comes to, for one of them, hearing or someone express big feelings, and for the other, when they hear something they interpret as negative feedback. So if you have identified that situation that is hard for you to, in which is hard for you to communicate, you might start already thinking about what your communication flavor is. And you have an option here because remember, we learn communication when we interact. The option is that you can write it in the comment. You can write what's difficult for you and your flavor, particular flavor, how you react in this moment, what you say, or you can DM me and it can be between us and we can still, you and I, interact. You can still get the benefit of learning this. It's so good to share with other human beings. So sometimes sharing can be considered an act of generosity towards yourself and with one another, because after all, we're all living a human experience. So the thing is, going back to the story of my clients, the thing is that when my client says something like, let's take a break and let's be level-headed about it when others around him are expressing big feelings, he realized that he also says that to his kids. When his kids are being exuberant or they're expressing some kind of joy, aliveness, and they're jumping up and down, and what he's actually doing there with this one flavor communication is that he's shutting them down. And remember the other story I told you of my other client who tends to make a joke and kind of like change the topic whenever she hears something that she considers negative feedback? Well, what happens for her is that some of her clients get upset with her, they stop hiring her, and then the feedback that she receives is that she's not taking the project seriously. So, what I was saying before is that when this communication flavor comes out, it's not only unsatisfactory, it can actually be unhelpful and get us the opposite of what we want. Now, the great news is that when we are adults, we have infinite possibilities in the way that we communicate, and we can increase our communication flavors. So, I want to teach you how to do this because it's not that complicated. It's simple, which doesn't mean it's easy, but it is simple. So when you are facing that kind of situation that's hard for you to communicate, that's uncomfortable for you, that's difficult for you, before you open your mouth, I really, really, really want to encourage you to pause. And as if you were opening a magical restaurant menu, which combines ingredients in a very creative way and creates new dishes all the time. In that pause that you're taking before you say anything, next time you have this difficult situation, I want to encourage you to ask yourself 3 questions. And the first question is, what's my intention? So just ask yourself, what is my intention here? The second question is, what truly matters in this interaction? So this will bring you back into the present moment. What truly matters in this interaction? And the third question is, how do I communicate my intention and what truly matters right now? How do I communicate that right now? So let these 3 questions guide your communication, and you're going to see that you're going to find more flavors and more possibilities than maybe you even thought of. And these situations that you perceived to be difficult might turn, most likely will, turn into a nourishing conversation, or at least a satisfying one that's not too bland. Now, try this and DM me if you'd like to share with me how this goes. I love talking about communication with you, celebrating you, cheering you on, and letting you know that you have the capacity to increase your communication flavors. And if you want more tools to increase your communication flavors, I wrote a blog post that can be useful to you. It's a blog post called From Surviving to Thriving, and that has more tools. So thank you so much for joining me, whether you're here with me live or you're watching this replay. I'm very grateful you are here. And as we say in Argentina, ciao, ciao. Till next Friday.